Welcome back. This is the first breakout session, Breakout 1. This is Chris Downs, Head of Commercial, Core to Cloud, and Laurence Bentley, Head of Cybersecurity, Core to Cloud. And you can read the title of the talk yourself, but basically it's the wider implications of cybersecurity for the business and for oil and gas particularly. Anyway, and I think Chris is going to be the first to speak. Chris, over to you. Give him a hand, come on.
Thanks very much. That was a nice one. I appreciate it. Yeah, so my name's Chris. I head up our commercial team here at Core to Cloud, and with us we've got Laurence Bentley as well. He heads up our cyber and our services element. Can't really see any of you. It's quite blinding up here, so it's not actually as daunting as I thought it was going to be because it's so black. Laurence is going to do all the talking really around the cyber piece we're here to talk to you about with regards to the oil and gas industry. My job is to let you know sort of who we are and what we do, because I think the consensus today is that not many people know of Core to Cloud, which is quite normal really. We're a company which has been around for 8 years, and we are built off the back of 2 main co-owners and 2 other directors who come from your side of the fence. They were CIOs and CTOs primarily before building Core to Cloud. And the idea and the ethos behind of who we are and what we do is a partner that they would have wanted to be a partner with when they were working in your fields. So predominantly we are a value-added reseller. So we find you your tools or your services you're needing for a cybersecurity project or whatever that may be. But predominantly we are, bar a couple of partners we're here today, we are vendor agnostic. The aim of that being is that our support or our consultancy that we offer you at the front end is designed not to put square pegs into round holes. And I don't know if many of you experienced this. Laurence did when he was on your side of the fence before joining Core to Cloud. But the issues that quite a lot of our customers or our prospects were facing were, if you came to us with a project around your cybersecurity insurance or attaining a set accreditation and you went to one of your partners, if they're only partnered with 1 or 2 tools in this area, it would sometimes be square peg round hole philosophy. That was one of the bugbears of our founders, and the idea is consultancy first, find out your requirements, what you need, and then align the right tools, services, and budget to that. So that's pretty much a little bit about us. With us in mind, we do that around 4 main pillars, which are here. So visibility, validation, governance and control, and response. And then we've added the services at the end. So those are the 4 main areas in which we work in. Laurence will go into them in more detail about how they are aligned later on in the talk to the gas and oil and gas community. And like I said, with us as well on our stand, so please do come and say hello to us today. Liv, our marketing executive, have got a really great prize for you guys if you want to come and get scanned. It's a chance to come to our castle in the Cotswold with 20 of your friends. Come watch a Star Wars marathon or whatever movie sort of floats your boat in our Star Wars themed movie theatre. And there's a lightsaber on offer as well. I'm gathering there might be a few Star Wars fans because it seems to be the general trend for quite a lot of the guys out there today. But yeah, we have got 2 main service providers with us as well at the moment. We've got Psychonito, who are our external tax service monitoring service. They're going to be on our stand. There's a guy called Graham with us, so please come and have a conversation with him about everything that they do and why we feel, again, Laurence is going to go into detail, why we feel they're something that's quite important in the industry at the moment. And finally, we've got our dark web monitoring service, which is something brand new that we've designed along with Keela. And a gentleman called Dave is on our stand as well, so please come and have a conversation with him around who they are and what they do. And Laurence, from a technical perspective, will go into more detail about why we're partnered with them from the oil and gas perspective. But yeah, other than that, please come along to us, say hello to the stand, find out more about who we are and what we do and why we've come to the event. The aim for us today is to meet people like yourselves, find out what you're looking for, what you're looking to achieve, and see if there can be any synergy and way we can help. So yeah, with that in mind, I'll hand over to the brains of the organisation. But nice to meet you all.
Thank you, my friend. Okay, so first of all, can everybody hear us okay? Can everybody see us okay? By all means, come forward. We have lots of tables at the front. I really do like audience participation. I want your engagement, and I want you to come and tell us whether or not you think we're talking absolute trish or actually what we're saying does resonate with you. So who am I? As it says, I started in IT security back in '97, so what, 26 years now. I've started off in military and government and then kind of migrated through public sector into private sector. Started off as an analyst, did offensive stuff first, then moved into defensive, and then actually started on the wonderful role of incident response. So why should you listen to me? You shouldn't. You know, why are you going to listen to this vertically challenged, bespectacled Sassenach standing on a stage? The only advice that I can give you of any merit that's actually proven to be factually correct is watch what you eat. Okay, the benefits of a diet made up in low in fat have been widely proven, whereas everything else I'm going to talk to you about in a moment is just my own rambling experience. This is relevant to where I've been, this is relevant to the organisations that I've worked in, and hopefully some of you are going to find it relevant as well. But I would never say that I am an expert in my field. If you want to know why I would never say I'm an expert in my field, come and see me on the stand and ask me, and I will tell you the long story about that piece. Okay, so with that, let's get the rambling underway. Some of the common problems that we've faced when we've been speaking with our partners and our customers and everything else are the same. It doesn't matter whether you're a public sector organisation, a private sector organisation, a governmental body. The same issues come up time and time again. Asset management is hard. There's a lot of things up here that are related to asset management. You know, some of them are technical challenges, you know, the expansion and take on of cloud technologies and how easy it is to spin up new instances in the cloud environment. Some of them are more procedural or business driven, like actually identifying stakeholders for your critical systems, yeah? But these problems are common across the whole gambit. Now, does anybody in this room, or let me phrase that, raise your hands if you have an asset register. Go on, please, I want to see hands raised. Okay, perfect. Keep your hand raised if you have 100% confidence in that asset register. Yeah, for anybody who's looking around, there is no one in here that goes, yes, I am 100% sure that I know where all my assets are, everything's great. That is one of the big problems. So we wanted to come and have a conversation with you guys, and it is a conversation that we want to have, around these kind of key challenges. So this was around how safeguarding, you need robust safeguarding measures, which is basically the fundamental principle of security, but also protecting people and processes, how you avoid burnout within inside of your teams, and then training, upskilling, and staff retention. So we're getting to the robust security safeguards, or safeguarding measures. You work in a very complex and interconnected environment, more so than other industries. You have, you know, back-end computerized systems for your administration and management of your people. You also have, computerized monitoring for your devices, your wells, your pumps, your transmissions, your stock access, and everything else. So your environments are probably more complex than 90% of the other sectors in the world. Okay, it's just a fact. Would anybody disagree with that, first of all? Okay. Audience participation is good. Please say yes, no. You know, that way I'm not just talking to a white light. Okay. As we said, though, one of the big problems with this is identifying what you have. So being able to identify all of your external assets. And this is where there are certain elements that come in time and time again to help you with this, and we'll be able to, you'll get a thread with regards to which items I think are potentially more important. One of the things is knowing what attackers know about you, okay? So actually, let's take a step back. First of all, does anybody believe, and remember, vocalize your responses so I can actually see, does anyone believe that you can protect something if you don't know it exists?
No.
Sorry? No. There we go, we'll get you there, we'll get you there. I know it's almost lunchtime, but come on. Right, no, you absolutely can't. If you don't know it's there, how the hell can you protect it, all right? Likewise, even if you know it's there, do you think it's important to know if it's something that needs protecting, or if it's of interest to attackers?
Yes.
There we go. Cool. Right. So you've got two elements in regards to this. The first one is actually knowing all of your assets. So there's a thing that's getting branded around now. It's been around for donkeys, but they keep changing the names of it, which is your attack surface management or attack surface exposure. Basically, it's a way of identifying what attackers see of your world. So all of your assets, all of your certificates, all of your web hosting elements, all of your back-end systems that are somehow connected to the internet and exposing themselves. Having visibility of that is critical. Likewise, knowing if attackers are actually targeting you. So we all know that there's, the big nasty nation states, and for a lot of organizations, they don't really need to worry about that. Oil and gas, critical national infrastructure, yeah, you do actually come under target of nation states. So having information and having actual threat intelligence, not threat information, and there is a big difference. So does anybody here actually have threat intelligence that they've purchased at the moment? No? Okay. Right. So when you're looking for your threat intelligence provider, you want to make sure that the information they're providing you is, first of all, validated. Right? So that means they've actually checked it. Then it needs to be relevant to your organization. Okay? And then the most important one is it has to actually be actionable. That means you have to be able to do something about it, rather than just giving you a huge long list of indicators of compromise or indicators of attack, which doesn't really help you ahead of time. Actually having something that tells you that you've got 60 accounts that have been leaked online. You can do something about that. You can get in front of that, you can change those accounts, you can check the permissions, you can check what access those people have had, and you can make that, you can close that gap down, you can close that loop out. So, having the information about what you are protecting and what you need to protect, having some level of, let's say baseline, for want of a better description, of what that risk looks like to your world, and then having information about whether or not you are actually being targeted by attackers is key. Okay? Anybody disagree? No. Anybody want to raise anything? No? Okay, right. So, then we get on to your sensitive information. So protecting critical information, safeguarding your sensitive information. There's a whole load of details and facts that we have in our organizations on a daily basis that are important to us. Okay, sorry. That isn't just the technical elements of it. That's not just your financial details. When you're dealing with information security and protecting your critical information or sensitive information, how many people in this room would also include their colleagues or employees' data in that element? Yes? No? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, audience, I can't hear. I can just see a white light. It's like I'm dead and just transcending. Yeah? So yes, sensitive information includes your corporate colleagues, their payment details, their home addresses, everything else. Even if you have nothing else, even if you don't have intellectual property that you need to safeguard, your drill reports, your shipment details, your financial details, you're going to have employee records that need to be protected. Making sure that you have data management, data classification is one way of doing that. By being able to establish where that information resides and how you're dealing with it, how you're processing it, and more importantly, who should have access to it and who shouldn't, is key. That's the starting point. That's one of those foundational controls. It's not an easy control, just like asset management. So being able to identify where all that sensitive information is in an environment is hard. Right? Let's not kid ourselves. But there are things that you can do to make it easier, and you definitely need to try and get a hold of it and get an understanding of where that information resides. That also helps you if the worst does ever happen to you and you suffer a breach, you know where that data resides. So you can then look to see whether or not the attackers have tried to get that data, or whether or not, God forbid, they've actually interacted with that data and have stolen some of that information from you. So by knowing that stuff, being forewarned, being forearmed, you can help and respond a lot quicker. Okie dokie. Compliance. Again, just like the complexities of the environments which you're working in, you are working in a really highly regulated environment. Cybersecurity is a huge buzzword at the moment, or InfoSec, whatever you want to call it. But it's also one of those things that when I was on the other side of the fence, I dreaded having to provide the evidence for the auditors, whether that was internal, third line, or external auditors, to go kind of do your ISO 27 certifications and all the rest of the gubbins that goes along with it. It shouldn't be the case. Information security can help you actually identify the evidence that you need, identify those gaps, and help you to then provide that back so that when you come forward with your compliance, you can say, oh yes, this is how we meet that compliance requirement, and here's the evidence to prove it. Yeah. Again, it's things like your asset management, knowing the devices you need to protect. It's knowing what your footprint looks like, what attackers are going after. It's having the processes and the procedures to deal with when things go wrong. It's having user awareness and education, not just a death by PowerPoint experience that people kind of click through once a year and then rush to the end and say, yes, we've done it. It's actually making it meaningful for your colleagues so that they will actually take something away from it. All of that helps you to prove your compliance. Okay. Again, please shout out if you have questions, disagree, want to challenge. It's all good. It's a safe place. So, protecting people and processes. Has everybody heard of the phrase configuration drift? Yeah? Okay. So for anybody who hasn't, it's basically you configure a device on day one. By day 182, it looks nothing like what you initially put in place. That happens all the time, okay? But by having, and that doesn't just happen with configurations, that happens with processes. We all spend time creating our incident response processes or our disaster recovery processes or business continuity plans, and that's great. Day one, they are absolutely spot on. They will do everything that we need them to do. They'll tick all the boxes. 3 months down the line, if we've not looked at those, they're probably not aligned to what we're now dealing with or what we're now looking at. People that have been named in them, contact details that have been listed, they've probably moved on, they've changed jobs, they've had to swap phones, whatever. So having a process that actually allows you to review your key processes, your key configurations, is really, really important. That doesn't mean that you rewrite them every 3 months, far from it. It means that you take what you've got and what you've already created and revalidate it to make sure that the process is still going to work for you today as well as it was going to work when you originally wrote it. This is even more important if you've had some form of external consultancy come in to create those processes for you. Okay, so again, definitely something that you want to look at and keep an eye on. The configuration management piece of your devices and your endpoints is also key. I would highly recommend you looking at some kind of automated tool to keep track of where your configurations are and what you've got. If you're using products like Tenable, for example, or any of the more sophisticated vulnerability management pieces, you can normally create a template for your world of what a configuration should look like. If you spent the money on those products already, use it. Use it to validate your configuration. Use it to make sure things haven't moved on and progressed. If you haven't got those capabilities within inside of it, then there's products like Gitpol that will allow you to build out a CIS benchmark or your benchmark for your environment, and then go through and validate it, and also allow you to make changes with a one click to get things back in line. Identifying where the configuration has changed on a system is really, really important. And it's also one of the things that can help shut down vulnerabilities and issues that allow attackers in. Joiners, movers, levers. Has everybody had experience of the joiners, movers, levers process at some point in their career? Yes, good. And we all know that when people join an organization, they start on day one, they have a certain set of privileges provided to them, and then they get involved with other projects, and then they get involved with other pieces, and they might move roles, and then they get new permissions, and that kind of grows and develops and expands out. It's very rare for people to actually, when they change role, for them to actually lose the permissions that they had previously. And that is one of the biggest weaknesses that we have. We have a tendency to overshare when it comes to privilege. So having technologies like privileged access management that can identify that and allow you to streamline that process is critical. So don't underestimate it. Likewise, look at those privileged access management tools that will allow you to do it in an automated way so that you can define a job role and then have all these permissions associated with that job role. So that when somebody changes and moves from being a level 1 analyst to a level 3 analyst, then those permissions are going to be altered automatically for you and you don't have to do anything. So look at that automation piece. The human factor. Yeah, we need to remember that we're dealing with people and that everybody can make mistakes. I mean, that's critical. Put your hand up if you have never made a mistake in your life. Yeah? Well, there's always one person. There we go, right at the back. Okay, right. I have learned so much more during my career from the mistakes I've made than from the times where everything just works smoothly, okay? One of the problems that we have within cybersecurity is that occasionally we can seem to be penalizing and punishing people for making a mistake, which then means they won't come and tell you that they fell for that phishing email. Now, phishing email is still I think it's still the biggest way attackers are getting into organizations. So you see all this ransomware stuff that's going on in the news that you can't avoid. 90-odd%, 95% of that is coming and starting off with a phishing email. Okay? The average time that a cybercrime group that's committing ransomware is in an organization before they actually hit the big red button that says encrypt is a month. Now, think about it. If your users came to you and went, I know I shouldn't have done, but I fell for this phishing email. I've entered my credentials. I just wanted to let you know. Sorry. You know, if you turn around and go, right, you're sacked, get out, it's going to discourage people from coming forward and telling you when they make a mistake. So and the other thing that we need to do is, and I hear this a lot and it really annoys me, is, oh yes, it's the users. The users are our problem. Okay? If you've got 3,000 users in your organization, you have 3,000 opportunities to turn those people into early warning systems for your security. Okay? You have to remember that they have other jobs. They're not security professionals by trade, or many of them aren't going to be. They have other roles they need to do. That could be marketing, HR, finance, construction, you know, whatever, logistics. That's their day job. So you need to make sure that your education and awareness piece is tailored to them, but also make it personable to them. But don't fall into the trap of just going, oh, it's users, there's nothing we can do about it. I've worked in some organizations where they had it spot on and they had people engaged and they made it personable and everything else worked well. And I've worked in some organizations where it was just literally death by PowerPoint every 6 months. Try to do the former rather than the latter. Burnout, yeah. Who sometimes feels like it isn't 24 hours in a day, it's actually 72? Yeah? Okay. Burnout is a very real thing, especially in all areas of industry, but especially in cybersecurity. People have unrealistic expectations of what can be achieved during a working shift. Now, we need to take a step back and realize there's only 24 hours in a day and there's only 8 hours normally in a shift. Sometimes some organizations do 12-hour shifts. That's fine. Whatever that value is, change it for your organization to make it relevant. But you need to make people understand that regardless of the number of alerts that a security team are going to be looking at or dealing with or processing or working through, there's only so many tasks they can do. Yeah? And if your analyst picks up an alert and it's looking like a serious security impact has happened in your world, that means all the other alerts that they would normally pick up, they're not going to be working on because they're going to be focused on the security incident, whether or not they ultimately prove it not to be a security incident and it's okay, or, God forbid, it is actually a security incident and you've had data exposed or information's gone. You need to build into your plans for your teams that contingency. So most organizations will require 24/7 monitoring of their security alerts. You know, we all know under GDPR, you've got 72 hours from when you first became aware of it to tell them. That's the maximum amount of time. The actual letter of the law states that you have to tell them without undue delay. Yeah? So that means if you find out about it at 1 o'clock on a Monday morning, you should be telling them as soon as it's possible. You shouldn't be waiting till your full 72 hours are up. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it can cause you some problems down the line if the situation gets worse. So build into your plans, build into your team dynamics that you are going to need overlap. That means you're not just going to need 3 people. Yeah, in order to do 24/7 for most of the organizations I've worked at, you need a minimum of 8 to 10. So that gives you coverage of people being ill, on holiday, on training, you know, having to work on a specific task or something else. Yeah, make sure that's understood. Brings us nicely onto training, upskilling, and staff retention. Yeah, I'll just wrap all through these. Training and upskill is important. When you're looking at security elements of it, and analysts, they are educated people, whether or not that's formally through universities or just in their nature, they want to learn and continue to develop. You have to continue that when they're with you in your organization. That means you have to secure budget for it ahead of time. Don't think that you can just give people £100 Amazon voucher and they can go and get their books. No, you're talking about active engagement and participation. That's so that they can retain their certifications and their skill sets, but also so that they actually see value in working in the organization. There's a whole load of different technologies and different platforms that you can use to do the training and skilling, but ultimately make sure that you have a plan in place. And if anybody's interested, I can tell you how I worked it when I was managing a team of 115 analysts in various different pieces, okay? But it is really, really important. Likewise, staff retention. In cybersecurity, it's roughly about 2 years. You bring an analyst in, they're going to be with you for about 2 years, and then they're going to look to move on. They're looking to move on, from my experience, not because they're chasing money, but because they get bored with the alerts they are receiving. So there's things that you can do to alleviate that and give them different capabilities or different visuals to stimulate them and allow them to stay longer. And again, I can tell you more about how I did that in some of the places I've worked. Conflicting priorities. Yeah, again, come see me on the stand. I'll tell you about some conflicting priorities and how you can overcome those. And that's around what you expect your staff to do and what they themselves may come to you and say they want to do. And with that, the rambling has ended. And as I said, watch what you eat. And do you have any questions?
To be honest, we can maybe take one question.
Yeah.
We haven't got time for much more than one question. So just one quick question, please.
Hi there. I'll try and make it quick. My question was, do you see many issues with, or do you work much with data integrity from a cybersecurity standpoint? And I guess what I'm meaning is less the nicking stuff or ransoming it, and more like that Iranian
accidental creation.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is where your data management and data classification piece is really key. So yes, there are, for every major news story related to cybercrime and cyber threat actors, there will be 100 accidental cock-ups, for want of a better description. Yeah, it will be people changing data or saving the information in the wrong format or saving it over another piece of document. That happens all the time. So you have to have some form of contingency to allow you to roll back that data and recover it if needed. You also have to have auditing enabled so you can understand who's made that change, because it may be that that person doesn't realize they've just changed everybody's last name to Smith. Yeah, and then being able to go back and trace that back to Chris and go, Chris, why did you change everybody's name to Smith? And he goes, oh, yeah, just so they understand it. But yeah, it is a key point and it is just as important.
Excellent. Okay. Can I ask you to thank Chris and Laurence one more time, please? Thank you.